My father-in-law arrived at my front door in Edmonton on a Tuesday in November with a folder under his arm and a look on his face like he was doing me a favor. Not an apology, not a handshake, a folder, cream-colored letter-sized, the kind you buy in bulk at Staples. He set it on my kitchen table before I had even offered him a seat. 6 pages inside, I counted later. Typed single-spaced, with a total at the bottom, underlined twice, $618,000. He said, "We need to talk about the family going forward." What he did not know, what none of them had known for 7 years, was that I had a box of my own, a gray plastic file box from Canadian Tire, the kind with the latch on the front and a slot for a label. I had written nothing on the label. I did not need to. I knew what was inside. 41 items. Every voicemail, every returned letter, every screenshot, every dated note on a yellow legal pad, written the same night something happened so I would have the facts and not just my memory of them. He had brought a folder of what he wanted. I had a box of what he did. My name is Callum. I am 41 years old. I grew up in Lethbridge, Alberta, the second of 3 sons. My father, Grant, spent 30 years as a pipe fitter with the same crew, same steel-toed boots worn through at the same spot on the right heel every pair. My mother, June, not my June, that name belonged to someone else by then, kept the house, raised us, ran the church potluck committee with the precision of an air traffic controller. My older brother, Wade, was the one who got the stories told about him at family dinners and laughed them off. I was the one who cleaned up after the stories. My younger brother, Theo, was still figuring out who he was when all of this started, which is the only reason I do not blame him for what he did not do. I met Amara Osi at the University of Calgary in the winter semester of my 2nd year. She was in the same urban planning lecture, 3rd row from the front, always there before the professor. Ghanaian Canadian, born in Accra, raised in Calgary from the age of 4. Her parents, Joseph and Adwoa, had come over on skilled worker visas. Her father, a civil engineer, her mother a pharmacist who later opened her own dispensary on Macleod Trail. Amara was studying architecture. She had a way of explaining spatial problems with her hands that made the solution look obvious after the fact. She made coffee the same way every morning, 2 exact measures, no variation, and she was right that her method was better than mine. We dated for 2 years before I brought her home to Lethbridge. The first visit, my mother, Elaine, called her by the wrong name twice at the dinner table. Said Amara the first time with a kind of careful neutrality, the way you say a word in a foreign language when you are not sure of the accent, and the second time said Amira without noticing. My father shook her hand, said nice to meet you, and spent the rest of the evening talking to me about the Flames. My father-in-law, Gerald, 62, retired regional sales manager from Red Deer, was not there the first visit. He was there the second. He spent the evening being pleasant in the particular way that is worse than being rude, because it has no surface to push back against. He asked Amara where she was originally from. She said Calgary. He said no, but originally. She said her parents were Ghanaian. He nodded the way people nod when they were expecting that answer, and had already decided what to do with it. That was the last visit before things went quiet. My brother Wade was the honest one. Which I mean in the specific way that honest people who say cruel things always mean it as a compliment to themselves. At Christmas, he pulled me aside in the garage while our father started the truck to warm it up, and he said, "You know Mom and Dad are never going to be okay with this, right? You know that." I told him he was wrong about them. He said he hoped I was right. He did not sound like he hoped that. I proposed to Amara on a Thursday evening at home in our apartment in Calgary. Not a ring first, not a restaurant. I had been thinking about it for 8 months and kept arriving at the same answer. I made dinner, her mother's jollof rice, which I had learned badly, and she had corrected patiently over 6 attempts, and I said, "I want to build a life with you. I have been certain of it for a long time. Will you marry me?" She said yes before I finished. I called my parents that night, my mother answered. I told her. 7 seconds of silence, I counted. "Callum, you need to think about what this means for this family. Not when is the date. Not tell me about the ring." A warning delivered in the quiet voice she used when she had already decided and was giving me one last chance to decide the same way. My father picked up the extension, said nothing, stayed on the line for 20 seconds, then hung up quietly. A letter arrived 2 weeks later, my mother's handwriting on the back of a printed email she had tried to delete the formatting from 3 paragraphs. The last one said, "We love you, but we cannot support this. If you go through with it, do not expect us to be there. She is not the right fit for this family, Callum, and she never will be. That is not cruelty, that is honesty." I read it 3 times, folded it, put it in a folder. Something in me, the part that keeps receipts and labels things in the freezer with dates, said to hold on to it. I held on. We married at the Banff Center on a Saturday in August. 42 guests, half from Amara's side, half our friends. Adwoa wore a kente cloth wrap in gold and green and cried through the whole ceremony in the way people cry when they are not sad at all. Joseph shook my hand at the altar, then hugged me when not sexets met, and said, "You are ours now." He meant it entirely. My parents did not come. Wade did not come. Theo sent a text that said "Congrats man" at 11:47 p.m., which was the kindest thing anyone in my family managed that day. That night in the hotel room, after the dancing, after Adwoa's cousin gave a speech in Twi that made everyone laugh even though most of us could not follow it, I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the flowers Amara had carried, dahlias from a florist on Banff Avenue, and my hands were shaking. Not from doubt. From something that did not have a clean name. I had just married the best person I had ever known, and the people who raised me had decided that was something to stay home from. I mailed a card to Lethbridge the following week. Inside our wedding photo, the two of us on the steps of the Banff Center, the mountains behind us squinting into August sun, I wrote, "We are happy. I hope you find your way to being happy for us." It came back 9 days later, return to sender, Canada Post stamp in red. I stared at that stamp for a while. Then I took out a gray plastic box from the storage closet, the one I had bought thinking I'd use it for tax papers, put the envelope inside, and wrote on a yellow legal pad, Item 1, wedding photo mailed August 19th, 2017. Returned August 28th, 2017. Red stamp, unopened. I did not know it then, but I would be adding to that box for 7 years. Year 1 was the quietest. I called my mother 3 times, voicemail each time. My father sent one text in January, 6 words, "Your mother needs right now." I filed it. Same process every time. Print, note, date, tab. Amara had quit her position at the architecture firm the year we got married to start her own practice, OC Plus Design, out of a converted garage studio in our house in the Glenora neighborhood in Edmonton, where we had moved for her to take a contract with the city. She started with residential renovations, heritage properties, mostly, the kind of work that requires patience and a tolerance for discovering that the walls are not where the original blueprints say they are. She was good at it. Methodical. She made decisions with the same 2-measure precision she applied to her coffee. I handled the back end, contracts, invoices, permits, HST filings. We had been doing this together since before the business had a name. By year 2, she had 4 contracts and a name in the heritage community. By year 3, she had been shortlisted for a provincial restoration award for a 1912 sandstone house in the Glenora neighborhood. She did not win, but the mention put her on the radar of clients who had serious projects and serious budgets. Our daughter, Cleo, was born in the spring of year 2. Joseph and Adwoa drove up from Calgary the morning after and stayed for 10 days. Adwoa cooked. Joseph walked the neighborhood every morning with Cleo strapped to his chest in a carrier, narrating everything in both English and Twi. He taught her the names of trees before she was old enough to repeat them, but she listened with the focused attention of someone taking notes. The birth announcement I mailed to Lethbridge came back, red stamp. Item 9. My brother Wade texted a mutual friend from high school. "Callum's got a kid now. Weird situation over there." The friend forwarded it to me. I printed it, filed it. Item 11. Year 4, OC Plus Design had 8 employees and a commission to restore a government-designated heritage building in Old Strathcona. It was the kind of project that gets written about. It got written. The Edmonton Journal ran a piece on the practice. Amara's photo on the cover of the style section, hard hat on, standing in front of scaffolding, looking directly at the camera. 1 week after the journal piece, my mother sent a text. First contact in 3 years, 44 words, not one of them was sorry. She referenced the distance that had grown between us as though distance were a weather event, something that had happened to us both equally, rather than a door she had closed and locked from her side. I screenshotted it, printed it. Item 19. First contact from Elaine dressed in 3 years. 44 words. 0 acknowledgement. Red pen. Dated. Year 5. Amara won the provincial award she had been shortlisted for 2 years earlier. Different project. The old Strathcona building fully restored. The ceremony was in Edmonton. Joseph wore a suit and looked like he might actually burst from pride. Adwoa brought a tin of chin-chin she had made the day before because she said there would not be enough food at the reception, and she was not wrong. That same year, I mailed what would be my last birthday card to my parents. Inside it, a school photo of Cleo at 4 years old. Braids, gap-toothed smile, holding a small Canadian flag she had received at her JK concert. On the back I wrote, "She asks about grandparents sometimes. I tell her you live far away." The card came back in 11 days, but the envelope had been opened. The flap was resealed with a strip of clear tape, the kind from a desk dispenser. Someone had taken out the photo, looked at her face, and put it back. My father. I was almost certain. Item 23. Birthday card year 5, opened and resealed. Photo viewed. Returned. Year 6, my brother Wade added me to a family group chat by mistake. Or not by mistake, I was never sure. I was there for 4 minutes before someone removed me. 4 minutes was enough. I had been reading quickly. Gerald, Amara's father-in-law, through me. OC Plus Design just won the commission for the Riverside mixed-use project. That's an $8 million build. If they land 2 more like that, the practice valuation is north of $3 million easy. My mother, Elaine, what does that mean for us, Wade? It means Callum has access to real money now. We approach carefully. Through him, not her. My father, Grant, typed once. This doesn't feel right. He did not type again. I sat in the parking lot of Cleo's swimming lesson and read all 4 minutes of it on my phone. My hands were not shaking from sadness. They were shaking from a very specific kind of clarity. 7 years of returned cards and a granddaughter they had never held. And now that there were dollars attached to our address, they wanted to approach carefully. I drove home, printed every screenshot. Filed them, items 26 through 29. Group chat approach strategy confirmed. Dated. 6 months later, OC Plus Design signed the Riverside contract and 2 others. The practice was valued at $3.4 million in a partnership review that fall. Amar and I held controlling interest. The number felt abstract. It was the same number of bedrooms in our house, the same area code as my parents, just with more zeros. But the zeros were correct. I had done the accounting myself. Gerald Swick's text arrived 3 days after the partnership review was announced in the business section of the journal. 68 words, carefully punctuated. His daughter's name appeared once, as Amara's firm, not as Amara's, not as your wife. Nothing about Cleo, nothing about the 7 years. He wrote family obligations and supporting one another through hard times, as though we were all working from the same script and had simply lost touch with the pages. I screenshotted it. Item 32. First contact from Gerald Swick in 7 years, 68 words, 0 acknowledgement, red pen, dated. My friend from Calgary texted that Friday. Gerald's flying to Edmonton next week. Wade helped him book it. I know, I said. What are you going to do? Open the door. I did not know what his face was going to do when I set the box on the table beside his folder. But I had 41 items and 7 years of patience, and I had learned from the woman I married that the method matters more than the moment. He arrived on a Tuesday morning at 10:22. I know because I was standing at the kitchen counter when the cab pulled up. A taxi, not a rideshare, which told me something about how he had planned this trip, what he wanted it to look like. He got out in a gray overcoat, the kind you wear to present yourself as reasonable. He stood on the front walk for a moment, taking in the house, the mature elms, the restored front porch, the window boxes Amara had planted in September with ornamental kale, because she said the color lasted longer. He was appraising. The doorbell rang. I opened the door. Gerald, 62, was broader than I remembered, slower at the shoulders. He looked like a man who had been practicing what to say since he's on the plane in Red Deer. Callum, Gerald. 4 seconds. I came to talk about the family's future. Not I'm sorry. Not I missed Cleo's entire childhood. Not I was wrong. I stepped back. Come in. I took him to the kitchen. Not the living room. The kitchen, with the corkboard above the counter where Cleo's drawings were pinned 6 deep, and the photo on the fridge from last Christmas. Joseph and Adwoa and Cleo at the kitchen table in Calgary, Cleo sitting on Joseph's lap, all of them laughing at something off camera, Adwoa's hands in the air mid-sentence. Gerald sat at the table. I poured water. No coffee. Coffee was for people who were staying. His eyes found the fridge photo. He looked at it for 4 seconds. Something moved across his face, not guilt, not yet. More like the expression of a man who has just understood the score of a game he thought he was still winning. He opened the folder. 6 pages, single-spaced. He did not read them aloud. He turned the folder to face me and slid it across the table like a contract. His retirement gap, $180,000. He had cashed out his RRSP early, taxes not planned for. The CRA bill alone was $34,000. His daughter Melissa's mortgage in arrears, $95,000. His own home equity line, drawn to the dollars. Wade's business debt, which apparently had become a family matter without my knowledge, $97,000. Total, underlined twice, $618,000. He said, "This is what families do for each other, Callum. You're in a position to help." $618. No question about Cleo, No acknowledgement that he had helped engineer 7 years of silence. An invoice delivered in the tone of a man who believed the amount was simply a formality. I looked at the folder, then I stood up, walked to the study, and came back with the gray plastic box from Canadian Tire. I set it on the table beside his folder. 2 objects, 6 pages, $618,000, no apology. My box, 41 items, 7 years, 0 apologies received. What is that? You brought a folder, Gerald. I brought a box. I opened the lid and lifted out the first tabbed folder. Item 1. Wedding photo. Mailed August 19, 2017. Returned August 28, 2017. I placed the envelope on the table, red stamp face up. Item 2. Birth announcement for Cleo Amara, addressed born May 4, 2019. Mailed May 7, 2019. Returned May 14, 2019. I laid them out one at a time. White envelopes, red stamps. Every door I had tried to open sent back with the same answer. Gerald's mouth opened. I kept going. The voicemail transcripts, the text my brother had sent about my weird situation, the group chat screenshots. Wade, we approach carefully. Elaine, what does that mean for us? He went rigid at the group chat. You had no right to read that. You had no right to return my daughter's photo. The kitchen was quiet. I reached for item 23, the birthday card envelope with the retaped flap. I held it up. This is Cleo at her junior kindergarten concert. I mailed it inside a birthday card. It came back in 11 days, but someone had opened it first, looked at her face, then resealed it and sent it back. He was staring at the tape. My father opened it. He wanted to keep it. Someone made him send it back. His hands went flat on the table. I waited. He said, if I let any of it in, if any of them let any of it in, they would have had to admit they were wrong, that they gave up 7 years for nothing, that they made their choice and it cost them something they cannot get back. He stopped. His jaw tightened. For a moment I saw something real. Not regret, not quite, but the first layer of what regret is underneath. Fear. The particular fear of a man who has finally understood what he traded and cannot calculate whether the trade was recoverable. Then his posture straightened. But you chose her over the family. I placed his folder on the left side of the table. My box on the right. Your folder. $618,000. No apology. I tapped the box. My box, 41 items. 7 years of a granddaughter you have never met. 7 years of envelopes with red stamps. A group chat where Wade said to approach carefully. I pulled out the letter, my mother's handwriting on the back of a formatted email. She is not the right fit for this family, Gerald. I have the original. He had nothing for that. You did not come here because you missed me, I said. You came because the numbers changed. He stood up, chair scraped the tile. After everything your family tried to do for you, my family showed up. Adwoa was here the morning after Cleo was born. Joseph walked this neighborhood every morning for 10 days with her in a carrier. Those people are my family. You've never met my daughter. The side door opened. Amara walked in from the back entrance. Work bag, paint-stained jacket. She had forgotten to leave at the studio. Keys in her hand. She saw Gerald. She saw the box. She saw me. She did not speak. She set her bag on the counter, walked to where I was sitting, put her hand on my shoulder and sat beside me. That was it. No confrontation. No speech. Just a woman sitting next to her husband because she knew exactly what was happening and had decided, as she decided most things, that her presence was the only statement required. Gerald looked at her. The woman he had spent 7 years deciding was not right for his family. Now the lead architect on an $8 million heritage build, wearing a paint-stained jacket with her keys still in her hand. Nothing announcing $3.4 million, nothing flashy. Just a woman who had built something. He looked at her hand on my shoulder. He understood. I had not needed the Swick family. I had already built something better. Gerald. I kept my voice level. I am not going to give you $618,000. Not because we can't afford to help. Because the moment I do, you will tell yourself you were right to stay away until it was worth coming back. You will call the 7 years a misunderstanding. You will show up at Cleo's birthday and expect her to call you Grandpa. I slid his folder back across the table. They were not a misunderstanding. They were a decision. Your decision. Every returned card, every photo of your granddaughter you looked at and sent back. If you want to know Cleo, really know her, that starts with an apology. Not to me, to her, and not today. When you are ready to mean it. He picked up the folder, stood, walked to the front door, stopped with his hand on the frame and turned back once, mouth opening, then closing, then nothing. The door clicked shut, not a slam. The sound of a man who had run the numbers and understood finally that he had come for the wrong thing. 3 weeks passed. Amara and I did not discuss it often. She had a site meeting the following morning and a structural report to review by Thursday. The world continued on the same schedule it always had. Cleo did not know Gerald had come. She was at school. I had wanted it that way. My mother called on a Thursday morning. Not my father, my mother, which surprised me. She sounded older, careful with her words in a way she had not been in the letter. Callum. I've been doing a lot of thinking. A long pause. I saw the journal piece, the one about Amara's project. I read the whole thing. I printed it. Another pause. I don't know how to start saying what needs to be said, but I know I have to start somewhere. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the letter. I'm sorry for the return cards. I'm sorry for all of it. I want to know, Cleo, if you'll let me try. I was quiet for a moment, longer than 17 seconds, I think. I stopped counting at some point in the past year. I believe you, I said. But believing you and trusting you are different things. We start with phone calls, no visits yet. You talk to me, and then once I think the time is right, you talk to Cleo, and you let her set the pace. Not you. Her, that's fair, it's what's available. We hung up. I sat at my desk for a while. My father texted that same afternoon, 3 sentences, no punctuation, the way he always typed, the same way he'd sent that 6-word text in year 1. Said he was sorry, said he didn't know how to make up 7 years but that he would try whatever way I said he had kept the photo, the one of Cleo at her concert. He had kept it in his wallet this whole time. He did not tell Elaine. I stared at that for a long time. Wade texted once, 2 weeks later. You could have just helped us out. That's what family does. I did not reply. Some messages contain their own response if you read them carefully enough. Gerald did not contact me again. Not a text, not a call, not a letter. The silence returned, but now it was his. I had said everything I needed to say. The next move belonged to him, if he ever decided to make one. The box sat on the shelf in my study. 41 items, 7 years. I did not add a 42nd. I hoped I would not have to. Here is what 7 years of returned letters taught me. There is a version of family that is about last names and obligation, and the assumption that love is something owed regardless of what you do with it. And then there is the other kind. The kind that shows up. The kind that drives 4 hours when your daughter is born and stays for 10 days and names every tree on the street. The kind that crochets a blanket in team colors because your daughter mentioned once that she liked the Oilers. The kind that prints a journal article about their daughter-in-law's restoration project and keeps it on the fridge alongside the Christmas photo. Joseph Ossie drove from Calgary with a casserole the morning after my mother called. I had not asked him to. He said Adwoa had made it the night before because she had a feeling. He sat at my kitchen table and drank the coffee I made badly and said, "However this goes, you handled it right." Then he drove back to Calgary to open the clinic. That is what showing up looks like. Cleo asked me last week why we don't visit Grandma and Grandpa dressed. I told her what I had been telling her. They live far away, and things are complicated. She thought about it. Is it complicated because of Mama? She was 6. She had her mother's eyes and her grandfather Joseph's way of asking a question that is not really a question but a door left open in case you want to walk through it. No, I said. It's complicated because of a choice they made. Not about you, not about Mama. A choice they made about themselves. And they're still figuring out whether they made the right one. She accepted that. She went back to her drawing, a house with very accurate window proportions for a 6-year-old, which should not have surprised me. From the kitchen, I could hear Adwoa on the phone, with her sister in Accra, laughing at something. She was visiting for the week. She had brought chin-chin and a new blanket for Cleo and the specific kind of noise that fills a house and makes it feel like something. My daughter has grandparents who show up. She has a grandmother who knows the names of every plant on the back deck, and a grandfather who still has her photo in his wallet and is slowly, carefully, learning how to earn the right to be there in person. That was always enough. That will always be more than enough.